Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Fort. We're here for the 11th in a 25-ish part series as we journey chapter by chapter through Holly by Stephen King. We're doing this a couple of chapters at a time. Pardon me for my attitude. This is the second time I'm doing this video. Clipchamps just crashed on me. It is 1:30 in the morning for me. I have to be at work at 9. This is upsetting. This is the third time in the past month or so that Clipchamps has done this. Microsoft, get your stuff together. What happens in this video is we have a So What Happened portion. We have which is a recap of what's going on. We have a Lit Crit portion and a few notes for the Writer's Corner portion. Now, this is a little bit inverse from most of the chapters we have had in that I have more writer's workshop type notes than I do notes in the Lit Crit section. There is but one Lit Crit note, and it's not even really a Lit Crit note. It is a meta observation for this novel. So what happened, Barbara continues her meetings with Olivia. Eventually, Olivia tells Barbara about the strange disappearance of Jorge Castro. Eventually, Barbara is laying in bed and she gets a call from Olivia, who is apologizing to her and asking Barbara if she can come out to see her. Cut to Holly. Jerome calls her and he has Ellen's old address. Holly goes to the old address and visits the landlord and gets a contact for Imani, who is Ellen's old neighbor. She believes that Imani might have a little bit of information about Ellen. She thinks that the two were social. So Holly goes and visits Imani, who tells her, "Call me Emmy." And she tells Holly about Ellen and how Ellen absolutely did not go home, and about all of the reasons that Ellen would not have gone home. She also tells Holly that there was a little old lady in a station wagon who helped Ellen, move out. Emmy says she also recognized that the little old lady appeared to have sciatica pain. Now, the one Lit Crit note that I have here comes to us from page 205. This is Barbara talking to herself as she is meeting with Olivia. She says that she likes rap and hip hop, but the phrase "my makes her uncomfortable. She thinks she shouldn't feel that way. She even likes the YG joint, but she can't help it. She says those words should make whites uncomfortable, not her. Yet there it is." Now, as someone so here's the thing. Stephen King, if we can use the term woke, Stephen King has set himself up into a corner on social media as one of the perhaps deacons of woke. He follows every rule, every iota, everything that part of Politica tells him to say. Absolutely every part. And there you have it. In this book, he uses that word. Now, I have been very harsh, very critical about Stephen King being very, very free to use words that talk about homosexuals and to use words that talk about Hispanics in this book in disparaging fashion, words that you shouldn't use. But despite the fact that he has used that word, the word, in previous novels, he was very careful not to use it even from the mouth of someone like Emily. However, here he has used it. It is with an A, not the R, the hard R, but he still used it. That is a word that the side of arguments in which Stephen King has inculcated himself says you're not allowed to use that word under any circumstance, and here he has done it. The media footprint for this novel has been negligible, and especially negligible compared to Fairy Tale. Is this why? He has used those other words, and now he has used the word. He has done this despite the fact that he follows every other rule of law for that side of arguments. King has created a monster with his social media presence. I think that much has to be admitted, whether you agree with him on these things or not. And sometimes when you create a monster, if that monster is a zombie, that monster will eat you. Now, I dropped the last video for Fairy Tale about a year, I believe, after the novel itself had come out. The last video for Fairy Tale got a much bigger reception for me than the second video for Holly. The second video in this series. Now, maybe that's me. Maybe nobody wants to tune to this channel and see me pedantically complain about Stephen King. Perhaps that much is true. Probably it's true. I don't think it's 100% true. I don't think it's the only deciding factor here. I haven't seen any hype regarding this novel. Is it because he used language that got him canceled, or at least unsubscribed? Maybe not canceled, but unsubscribed from a great deal of the media hype trains. After all, you are one of these media hype trains. How can you, if your entire if your entire following is one of these far leftist type followings, how can you then come out and support this book where Stephen King says these things? Not only is he using that word, he is using words that tell a black character how to feel about being black. That is another thing which would not be allowed by certain subsets of political beliefs. Now, to move on to the writer's notes. On this same page, a couple sentences later, we have this. As Olivia is telling Barbara is saying, I have all of these charged ideas I need to go through in my writing. Barbara says, find a way. Or she says, basically, I have to say all these things I can't. And Olivia says, find a way. Find the images, no ideas, but in things. But they must be true things, when your eye and your heart and mind are in harmony. So this idea, no ideas, but in things, is known as the objective correlative. I learned it as not in ideas, but things. Often this is associated with Ezra Pound, for sure. The expatriates, the people with whom Ezra Pound surrounded himself, T.S. Eliot, Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald. This idea is very compelling. You will notice from that era of writing forward, what it meant to be art was a little bit elevated. This was elevated in the fact that it was further removed from obvious, I think, is a decent way to say it. Further removed from easy, I think, is a way to say it. This is that if you have, for example, you have something you want to say about loneliness, you do not say, oh, I am alone, I am so lonely, I feel lonely, isn't it awful to be lonely? No, what you do is you pick a thing, not in ideas, but things. You pick a thing. You pick the last pine cone on the evergreen before it sheds them. Why? Because that last pine cone had some seminal need to drop but never did it, had some seminal need to drop but never came off the tree. It is the last one there. Why is it the last one there? You just describe it being all alone, and loneliness filters its way through that image. Also, in this same little paragraph, the same little quote, when your eyes and heart and mind are in harmony. Blah. What does that mean, Stephen? That means nothing. That is awful. That's bad writing. But we get this. If you find things, not in ideas, but things, but they must be true things. What does true mean? I hate to be Jordan Peterson. What does it mean to be true? Right. What do you mean by true? What does it mean to be true? True to who? True as in things that you really felt. True as in things that were verifiably real. Is this about verisimilitude, or is this about conveying the idea? There's a poem from Emily Dickinson, I died for beauty. I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb. When one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room, he questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth. The two are one. We brethren are, he said. Emily Dickinson in that poem is saying that what is beautiful is what's true. Is that what Stephen King means when he is having Olivia say it has to be true, that it has to be beautiful? I doubt it. I doubt that very much. But what does truth mean? True to who? True as in that is really what I perceive? True as in that is really what I can prove on paper? This is an idea, this is a question that has to be answered by every artist. On page 206, an insidious quote. Barbara is again attempting to explain her life to Olivia. Olivia says, "This is not psychiatry." Olivia says, "It is not therapy. It is poetry, my dear. The talent was there before the awful things happened to you. It came with the original equipment, just as your brothers did. But talent is a dead engine. It runs on every unresolved experience, every unresolved trauma, if you like, in your life. Every conflict, every mystery, every deep part of your character you find not just unlikable, but loathsome. I find that sentiment loathsome. That it came with the original equipment. That one's ability to write simply is or is not there. I do not believe it is. I think people can craft themselves into anything that is manageable, and being a writer is manageable. You do not have to be born to be 6'8" in order to be a writer. There is a good deal of shaping that comes with what it means to observe things in a writerly fashion, but I believe that even that can be worked on. I believe that even that can be learned. I believe that even that is something that someone can acquire. Stephen King here is telling you, hey, I am Stephen King. I was born to be this great. Sure, I had to shine up the craft itself. I had to tuss out those great phrases that I use because I'm Stephen King. But the idea of being a writer is something that was born into me. The ability to write is something that I was born with, probably. You loser. You were not. You were not born to be Stephen King. I find this a very loathsome idea. Now, are there things that you can do? Are there things that with which certain people seem to be born that others aren't in the realm of intelligentsia? Yeah. I don't believe that it takes all that much intelligence to be a writer. I think that there are other things that it takes to be a writer. Does it take being 6'8" to be a writer? No. Does it take being able to throw a 98-mile-an-hour fastball to be a writer? No. It takes being able to clearly communicate the things in your head onto paper. That's 80% of what it is to be a writer. Everyone has these ideas. Everyone walking around has observations. Can you convincingly put those things into word? That is a matter of craft, not a matter of being born with something. And finally, since I am here just trying to tear holes in Stephen King at this point, we have this on page 216, coming to us from Emmy. Hell of a thing to be knitting on a day when the temperature is supposed to be in the 90s, but cold weather always comes, or did. They got the climate so screwed up it's hard to tell what's going to happen from one year to the next. But if the snow flies and the lake freezes, someone will buy this at a church sale. I have put more away, plus scarves and mittens. I get good money for these things, more than Yardley makes, but working at the impound keeps him out of my hair, and me out of his, I suppose. Works both ways. 52 years is a hell of a long walk from the altar, let me tell you, and some of it's stony. Now, how can I help you? This is terrible writing. This is terrible dialogue. No one speaks like this. No one takes the rug in front of someone that they don't know and just rambles on like this. Maybe they do. Who wants to read it? There's a difference in literature between truth and ultra truth and bad writing. There's a lot of bad writing in verisimilitude. Maybe someone somewhere has said this type of thing before, rambling on like this, going from the weather to their husband to 52 years, and then goes, now how can I help you? I mean, this sounds like an NPC from a video game just spilling exposition onto the players. But why would you want to write that? We mentioned Ernest Hemingway earlier. Ernest Hemingway does not necessarily write things with verisimilitude. He writes more or less ultra-truth. What that is things that sound good to you, but probably you've never heard. It is something that feels very realistic when you're reading it. You read the dialogue of Ernest Hemingway and you feel as if you could be hearing that out in real life. Probably conversations don't really happen that way, but they feel right because we're cutting out a lot of the stupid stuff that we normally say to each other. That is what happens when you have a writer who writes as crisp as did Ernest Hemingway. He is not presenting you with real dialogue. He is presenting you with ultra truth. Verisimilitude really isn't all that important in writing. What you have to do is be able to distill the real things into a fashion that is easily digestible by the reader. That is not this. That is all I have for this video, the 11th in a 25-part series. If you like or appreciate what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me on the channel, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. There is always stuff coming on the channel, and I hope to have you back for the next one. Hopefully, I can get this video edited now.